wide-scale international condemnation over Aden terrorist attack that targeted the governor. Joint forces defend Houthi attacks in different areas in Hodeidah. With winter outdoors, internally displaced people's sufferings aggravates as the conflict extends nationwide. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shazad Abdelbay. International condemnation continued for the terrorist attack that targeted the convoy of the governor of Aden and the Minister of Agriculture yesterday. Arab and foreign countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Egypt, and Bahrain, condemned the attack. The countries described the assassination attempt as a terrorist attack that aims at spoiling the atmosphere for peace in Yemen. At the local level, Miyun Organization for Human Rights condemned the assassination attack. The organization said in a statement that this terrorist crime violates the human right to life and requires the unity of all Yemenis. It called for a swift and transparent investigation to bring those behind the attack to justice. Yesterday in Aden, a car parked in a street exploded in the convoy carrying the governor of Aden, who was convoyed by the Minister of Agriculture. The explosion killed at least 5, while 11 others were injured. More on the story is within this report.
The international call for peace in Yemen is now critical, especially after the explosion that targeted the convoy of the governor of Aden, who was accompanied by the Minister of Agriculture. The assassination attempt has rocked the international circles, which condemned the attack and called for rejection violence, leveling up the national interest above all tide considerations and working towards a peace solution that brings Yemen out of the political and war dilemma. The attack comes few days after extensive political deliberations by international and regional parties to end the war. Days ago, the new United Nations envoy to Yemen, Hans Grundberg, was in Aden in his first visit, and he conducted a series of meetings with different parties that included officials in the government, the South Transitional Council, and the governor of Aden himself. For his part, United States envoy to Yemen, Tim Lundergang, held several meetings with officials in the region to discuss the crisis. This, however, didn't ease the situation both politically or in the field. Houthi militia is escalating their attacks on all fronts in Ma'rib, Shabwa, and other areas. They are flying drones and launching ballistic rockets targeting positions in and outside Yemen. The assassination attack is posing the question, who is behind such terrorist attack, while Yemenis and other foreign partners are working for peace? The culprit, according to experts, is a side that does not want peace to prevail, a side that works for the continuation of instability, which will engulf the country into more chaos. This critical moment calls for the Yemenis to stand together for the single goal of a unified and stable Yemen for all.
Yemeni Prime Minister Ma'in Abdel Malik lauded the cooperation and brotherly relations that link Yemen with Egypt. During his official visit to Egypt, Abdel Malik discussed with his Egyptian peer Mustafa Madbouli a cooperation in the field of oil, gas, electricity, and communications. Madbouli, for his part, affirmed Egypt's rejection of all attempts to undermine the freedom of navigation in Bab el-Mandeb Strait. He stressed Egypt's eagerness to coordinate efforts to secure navigation through the strait, as well as mobilizing efforts to ward off any environmental dangers from the safer tanker. Joint forces in Hodeidah inflicted human and material losses on the Houthi militia for their repeated violations on 4 fronts inside the city. The military media of the joint forces reported that the militia targeted the homes of citizens to south of Hodeidah and other residential neighborhoods on Sana'a Street. The rebels targeted military sites in Al-Saleh and Kilo 16 east of Hodeidah. The military media reported that the joint forces achieved direct losses in lives and equipment among Houthis. Still in Hodeidah, where the engineering teams of the joint forces discovered a network of mines in the eastern neighborhoods. The discovery came after a mine exploded, injuring a woman. The mine network extended in an area of more than 300 square meters. To Ma'rib, where the Houthi rebels are continuing their blockade on Abdiya Directory, where 35,000 civilians are lacking basic needs. A violent explosion was heard in Sayun city, Hadramaut, southeast of Yemen. Local residents reported that the explosion happened near Sayun Hospital, explained that the explosion was in a car filled with live missiles. Violent clashes broke out northwest of Al-Dala between the joint forces and the Houthi rebels. A military source reported that the clashes erupted after Houthi tried to penetrate 3 positions for the joint forces and the southern resistance. The clashes caused heavy losses among Houthis. Internally displaced people in Yemen are living hard conditions. Their camps are void from basic necessities. They lack food, clean water, and medicine. More on the story is within this report.
More than 2/3 of internally displaced in Yemen live in very harsh conditions in unofficial camps, and the majority of them are women and children who have been displaced by the war that the Houthi militia has ignited, while the wave of displacement has risen due to the escalation of the Houthi militia to high levels in Ma'rib, reaching 10,000 people during the month of September. According to United Nations data, the crisis in Yemen has pushed the population to the brink of famine, deepened poverty, destroyed the economy, reinforced the spread of diseases including coronavirus, and displaced more than 4 million people from their homes. 2/3 of them now live in unofficial camps. Among 7.3 million Yemenis in need of assistance with shelter and food, nearly 2.9 million people are living in extremely harsh conditions, 75% of whom are women and children. As the international organization recalled that the country still represents the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, with 20.7 million people in need of humanitarian aid, representing 71% of the total population. The escalation of the Houthi militia during the first 9 months of this year on several fronts led to the displacement of an additional 60,984 people, and the wave of displacement reached its climax in September in Ma'rib, where about 10,000 people were displaced during that month. The International Organization for Migration stated that the escalation of fighting in and around Ma'rib in Yemen forced thousands of people to flee in search of safety. Many people have fled to 34 displacement sites managed by the International Organization for Migration, worsening the situation of overcrowding. According to International Organization of Migration, many newly displaced people live in deplorable conditions, with multiple families sheltering under one roof. More than half of them say that shelter is their most important need, followed by food and water. People are looking for a safe place in abandoned public buildings to live in, or at a relative's homes, and others have exhausted their savings in rental housing.
A number of citizens were injured in a mine explosion that took place between Ma'rib and Al Jawf. A local source said that the landmine exploded in a passing car, carrying about 9 civilians, including women and children. The source added that the conditions of those injured are serious. Houthi mines exploded frequently in the roads linking between Ma'rib and Al Jawf, killing and injuring hundreds of civilians. Coming next, Houthis assault state institutions and replace employees by affiliates of their own.
أقول لك راحت بالغداء لأهلها شلت الغداء وراحت بأهلها في المزرعة. والمزرعة ركبت على حمار ما حتى نص المزرعة وانفجر فيها اللغم، دعست على اللغم وانفجر فيهم. الحمار انتهى ما أدرى وتبقعت رجليها كامل. نغير منها نغير الشبالة اللي هي البنت سابها من دور رجليها لما صافناها طبية أقرب طبية وصافناها لا هي بطلت رجليها كامل.
قلت الزود هلي وقابل لي لعام وطبعته تحت الزواية.
Welcome back. Houthis have assaulted state institutions and everything that relates to statehood. The most recent act of such assaults is replacing public service workers who face their way of rule and replacing them with affiliates. More on the story is within this report.
Since the fall of the capital Sana'a under the control of the Houthi militia, they have immediately replaced its followers in government jobs and positions without the majority of them having any qualifications. As part of the expansion of the purge operations of employees to include all kinds of jobs and positions, while those close to the leader of the Houthi group and belonging to his dynasty hold most of the senior positions. A source at the Ministry of Education in Sana'a confirmed that the Houthi militia is replacing its original employees and confiscating their job numbers. He said that they request specific daily working hours, and if any employee is absent for any circumstances, he is directly replaced by Houthi elements. Replacement of jobs was not limited to males only, but the militia formed a committee of Zainabiyat whose task is to monitor working hours in government facilities and to replace any female employee with another who follows them. Houthi militia is carrying out a quick process of replacing employees by confiscating the job, hiding documents from the Ministry of Civil Service, and granting the job number to elements they follow. The Houthi militia had controlled members of the judiciary and excluded employees who were not affiliated with the militia to be able to fully control the judicial system, which is responsible for issuing judgments and determining the fate of justice. Houthis' approach was not limited to the government of state agencies, but rather replaced the legitimate secretaries with loyalists, forcing them to give up their positions and hand over the citizens' documents in their possession. They have carried out a process of exclusion against academics in a number of Yemeni universities under their control, where it dismissed 30 university professors from various faculties of Damar University under false pretexts and appointed others loyal to it who do not hold academic qualifications. Also, it replaced teachers in many large and important schools in the capital Sana'a and the areas under its control, where the educational sector has witnessed many changes in the curricula to serve Houthi projects. The campaign of exclusion and marginalization practiced by the Houthi militia against many of those who do not belong to it continues, as decisions are issued in favor to its members in various government sectors in the capital Sana'a and the governors under its control, at a time when it continues to confiscate employees' salaries for years, spend it in its wars, and enrich its supervisors and senior leaders. When can all these violations and corruption end? No one knows.
The European Union called for the closure of death sentences against Yemenis, including journalists and activists. The European Union statement was posted by the European Mission in Yemen, marking the International Day Against the Death Penalty corresponding with the 10th of October. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Wide-scale international condemnation over Aden terrorist attack that targeted the governor. Joint forces defend Houthi attacks in different areas in Hodeidah. With winter outdoors, internally displaced people sufferings aggravates as the conflict extends nationwide. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.